Buckle up. Live from Gloucester, Massachusetts. Podcasting around the world. You're listening to the GloucesterCast podcast, a production of Joey Shimataro and Good Morning Gloucester Media. Kick back, relax, and enjoy the show with your host, Joey Shimataro, and his crew of merry castaways. No piping plovers will be intentionally harmed in the production of this podcast.
You're on.
Blast off. Blast off. Jimmy.
Yes.
GloucesterCast with Andrew Knott, also known as Andy Knott, whose family, instrumental. And when I say instrumental, I don't mean tongue-in-cheek. No. Instrumental in huge revolutionary invention that has impacted the lobster industry in a major, probably, let's see, trying to think what could be a bigger impact than the invention.
How about the iPhone?
The iPhone. No, I'm saying just directly to the lobster industry.
Directly to the lobster industry.
Yeah. The internet, maybe.
Yeah.
Other than the internet, depth machines, like the way that they can chart the oceans. But other than that, I can't come up with much.
Yeah.
Jeff Knott's with us. Jimmy Dalpiaz is with us. I'm your host, Joey Shimataro. And Pat Dalpiaz is manning the comments. Lynn Scannell has already checked in. Jane Loring has checked in.
Says hi, Andy.
Both to say hello. Oh, Phil Scannell. Phil goes under Lynn's Facebook profile. So there's that. Andrew, before we get into your business and stuff,
sure.
We have a two-part question to ask you. Your podcast virgin questions. You have to put your mindset that you are on death row, and the warden comes in, and he's going to ask you for two things. He says, you're going to be executed tomorrow. We'll get you a sub from any sub shop on the planet. What is the sub, and what is the place? And it can't be homemade. You have to name an establishment.
It's got to be Destino's, and it's the steak and cheese for sure.
Pat, have you been keeping tally?
I was just going to suggest that we should have a segment updating and discussing what this list looks like, because it's pretty interesting.
Maybe you could do that for this afternoon.
Yeah.
If not, the next time after that. No pressure. Second part, death row meal. Yeah. Meal from any restaurant. What's the order and what restaurant is it coming from?
Ooh, restaurant. That's a tough one. Well,
doesn't have to be lobster.
Doesn't have to be lobster?
No,
okay.
I'm only kidding. Whatever you want. Hey, you're going to die, so do what you want.
There's a lot of great restaurants here in Gloucester. I love them all. It's hard to pick one, but
you don't have to be politically correct. You could say anywhere.
Okay, yeah. I mean, when I talk about going to a restaurant with my wife, it's either a question of the food or the view. So which one do we want? You know?
Yeah.
So the boat port has great view the Causeway has great food. So,
but it has to be one specific meal. This is your last meal. You're going to die. The last thing that you're going to ingest.
Last thing I'm going to ingest. Oh, it's going to be lobster. It's going to be a lobster and a mocha shake.
From where?
Mocha shake from the Long Beach Dairy Maid.
And you're going to get lobster from there too?
The lobster? Well, I'll take the blue collar lobster house. How's that?
Blue collar lobster. Yeah. Okay. That's there you go. Yeah. Boiled lobster. Is that what it is?
Boiled lobster.
Boiled lobster is there you go.
Love lobster.
Very apropos.
Yeah.
As they say in the business.
Okay. As they say in the business.
There we go. So your father, Jim Knott, invented the wire lobster trap. So we'll get that out of the way first and foremost.
Yeah.
The little background. Most people probably know, I would imagine, that lobster gear was hand-built wooden traps with netting. And can you tell me, and then your father came up with the idea for a wire lobster trap.
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, the wooden lobster traps were used for 100, 150 years. I mean, people used to literally go out in the woods and grab the wood and put the traps together. My dad was an inventor, and he invented a process of putting plastic coating on wire mesh. So think about backyard fencing or cages, and he had been a lobsterman as a young boy, and he used wooden traps. And later on in life, when he came up with this process, he he wanted to sell it to lobstermen. So the first idea actually originated in Rockport. He gave some of this coated wire mesh to fishermen to put around a wood frame,
Oh, to go around it.
to go around the frame to replace the netting.
Mm.
Um, and people were skeptical. It cost more than the netting, but the idea was there wouldn't be much maintenance. It would last longer.
Hold on, I'm going to just stop you there for a second.
Yeah.
When you say they were skeptical, lobstermen in general they are creatures of habit. They go out, they do the same routine just about every single day,
Yeah.
and for decades they used herring as their main bait source, and then a few guys started using redfish racks, the heads and stuff like that, and I equate the lobsterman mentality, and this is not a slight in them. This is just the way it is.
Yeah, the way it is.
To a steamship, like one of those big steamships that is going along, and it takes like 10 miles to slow down to make a
Sure.
turn.
Yeah.
It's the same way with, like, I have lobstermen that, embracing an iPhone, any new technology or anything, like, it usually takes one really successful guy to embrace it, and then they slowly will,
It goes through the grapevine. And there you go.
I have a few stories about that,
Yeah.
which I was going to tell. I can tell them now or
Yeah.
tell them later. But
Yeah.
there was a famous lobsterman who's well known around the Gloucester area by the name of Bob Brown. He was from Marblehead originally. He was one of the pioneers of the offshore lobster industry. And later on, he got into sword fishing, and he owned the Andrea Gale, and everyone in the city knows the story. But early on, we exhibited at the Boston Fish Expo at the Heinz Auditorium. I'm going back now to the mid 70s, let's say 75 or 76. And we had the traps on display. And Bob Brown used to come around and tell me that he had tried the traps. They were no good. They would never work, and no one would use them. And I was wasting my time. And this went on literally for 8 or 10 years. We went back to the show. At that time, the show was every 2 years. We went back every 2 years, and he would come down, the same story. He'd end up by saying, "You're wasting your time. You're wasting your time." And finally, I'm going to say the early 80s, he came back and he stuck his hand out and he shook my hand. He said, "Congratulations, I was wrong, and the wire traps are here to stay."
Jeez, the blessing. You got the blessing.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, so can you explain to me the benefits of the benefits of a you say it's plastic, not rubber?
It's PVC. It's actually it's a PVC material that we formulate at the factory.
And that coats wire,
Right.
Stiff wire. Can you just for the layman explain what the benefits of that is over what the former technology was? The wooden traps.
Well, it's interesting. When we first started, we had certain sales pitches or features and benefits, but the main thing is that the traps are a lot lighter out of water, but they actually weigh more in water. So think of a paper clip. If you throw it in the water, it sinks, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you throw a wooden trap in the water, it floats for a few days until it absorbs.
Buoyancy, yeah.
Yeah, buoyancy. So, and then in the old days, fishermen used to carry spare wooden laths and nails and hammers, because if the lath broke, they'd haul the trap up and they could lose lobsters. So it took the fishermen a long time to realize this, but the traps were actually much easier to use.
I'll give you
Made their life better.
I'll give you a few more examples.
Yeah.
A lobsterman, they are all day long. They are trying to think of how they can get more lobsters to enter their traps.
Mhm.
Yep.
Now, if you just and there are there's a difference. There's lobstermen that are true lobstermen and they're thinking all day long, and then there's people that just push the traps off the rail and
Like
and
McCarthy.
hope for, right, exactly, and hope for the best.
Yeah.
When I have certain lobstermen that spend an inordinate amount of time and they have their system of how they fish like 800 traps, right, over in at a time, in phases, but they want each trap to have the highest possible success rate. To have the highest success rate, the trap needs to land perfectly square on the bottom, so that the lobster finds its way up into the trap.
Mhm.
If it lands upside down, then they're not going to trip. It's a waste of time. It costs you money because you're baiting that trap. The bait now is unbelievable cost for the lobsterman. And if the trap is upside down and a lobster can't go into it, your time, your energy, your fuel, and your bait is all expense that is you might as well stay home, don't expend your energy, and burn the money.
I can add something to that. So I traveled up and down the Maine coast and throughout the Canadian Maritimes, and every harbor has what we call a highliner, right? So I don't know how many fishermen there are in Gloucester today, but there's typically a few percent that catch way more than everyone else, and then you've got the people in the middle, and then you have the people that do it, part time for fun.
Mm-hmm.
So what we found was that the highliners, the ones who that you described, who have everything a certain way, they tended to be more innovative. They were willing to try things. Now, one of the problems we had marketing the trap early on was that fishermen tend to be kind of secretive, right? They don't want to tell,
or not just secretive, or sandbag it. You know what I mean? Like trying to put you off of the scent.
Exactly.
Fishermen, lobstermen, where did you catch that fish? They give them the coordinates a million miles away.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So it was a huge marketing challenge because people didn't want to tell each other what.
Yeah. Or tell them the adverse things. You don't want to try this.
You don't want to try it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Just like Mr. Brown, right? So.
Yeah. Wow. So you actually you did lobster yourself.
Yes. Yeah. No, I got my first lobster license when I was 10, and I don't want to date myself, but I will. That was 1965. And back then, a license cost $10, and that was an unlimited license, right? So you could have as many traps as you wanted and catch as many lobsters as you wanted.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
and
there were certain things that held you back, though, because how many wooden traps are you going to build? The other part about the wooden trap is the worms.
Correct.
The worms get into these worms bore into the gear and destroy it. And, it's like it can look. You can look at an old wooden trap, and it can look like perfectly functional, and you can press it, and it almost like disintegrate.
That was a bigger problem in the offshore. For some reason, the offshore traps, the worms would attack them out there more than the inshore. But then they came up with this dip, and they dipped the traps, but it wasn't good for the environment, and so I think the EPA put a stop to that.
Oh, okay.
So that was
dip them into dip the wood.
Dip the wood. They
into I see.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it was I'm trying to remember.
That's like those pilings, the pressure treated pilings.
Thank you. Yeah.
Stuff like
right.
that. Yeah. There's definitely toxins that.
So they did a lot of.
They'd be like bars of iron in the thing there, but but
Yeah.
not good.
Yeah.
No bueno.
Maybe like the stuff they put on the greasy pole, right?
Right.
But no, I'm trying to think of what it was. It was an oil-based product, and they would build the trap, and then before they would put them out, they dip them in this and
Well, the pilings they dipped in creosote.
creosote. That's what it was.
Yeah.
It was creosote.
Oh yeah, that's the railroad tracks, and they put that all on the wood
Right.
for the railroad
Yeah.
tracks.
It was going right in the water.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't know. I don't know if it was good for the
Yeah.
lobsters or the fish.
Well,
but,
it's funny. Like, there's been a lot of in the last, I would say, 20, 25 years. Like, I think when I was growing up, we don't have the education about the environment that the kids today have.
right.
I mean, like we, and actually the fishermen themselves, not lobstermen, lobstermen have all, as long as I've been alive, the lobstermen have been conservationists because they've recognized the need to.
Right.
And the fishermen, when I was younger, would have killed every last fish that there was. The fishermen, the ground fishermen, and stuff like that. And we didn't. When in the 80s, when I was 14 or whatever, we didn't look at it like it was a finite resource. We just thought that there was endless amounts of fish. And then into the 90s, we saw the rapid decline, and then it was an eye opener for us. But the fishermen fought every single regulation that was thrown at them. The lobstermen embraced,
They did.
the V-notching. They embraced the shorts. They embraced they continue to innovate as far as regulation. With the larger size, the egg-bearing females. There's constantly, they've done a good job managing.
Did you
the
have a lot
lobster
of
industry.
regulations too in the course of making this so successful? Did you have to follow a bunch of regulations?
Oh, sure. Yeah, it was a big factory. It started out as a small factory, but it got bigger and bigger over time, and quite a few. That's a subject.
Yeah, it could go on forever.
Yeah, it could go on forever. But
so go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'll just add one thing. So the one innovation I see was that this was the fishermen, but also the scientists. They pushed for a bigger lobster. So when you probably remember, at one time the carapace length was 3 1/8, and then went up to 3 3/16, and now it's 3 1/4. So that allowed more lobsters to live and breed,
Right.
and potentially.
Robert and Annette Spanks, the swingers from the villages in Florida, say Riverdale Mills Company makes the coolest lobster trap rocker. Comfortable too. So you branched out into other things too?
Well, so Riverdale Mills doesn't make the traps or the rockers. They make the wire.
Right.
And they make the wire for a lot of other different applications. Aquaculture. It's used for fencing, for backyard fencing. It's used in the construction industry.
Is it used in concrete?
Well, that wire that's used in concrete doesn't have a coating. It's a plain steel, and Riverdale doesn't make that product.
Mm-hmm.
Our business is really applying the coatings. There's two coatings. There's a zinc galvanized coating underneath the plastic coating. So that's one of the keys to get the wire to last.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this. Some of my lobstermen, there was like kind of a shortage of wire. Was it like COVID times maybe? Or right, a little bit of it was difficult to get a lot of coated wire. So some guys were buying Chinese wire. This stuff, it's a knockoff product out of like China and stuff. And they fished it, and the longevity of it is a completely inferior product, and ended up costing them in the long run, because every extra year that you say now trap costs like $120, $140. A trap for some of these bigger guys it's like $140, which is unbelievable, because I can remember when they were like $25, and so it's a huge investment. So every year that you get additionally, it does not pay to, like in most applications, when you're buying a part for a car or, the winch or anything around the salt water, you need to have the best because you could pay 10% less, but get 30% less life longevity out of it.
Sure.
And then you actually went behind in that case, right?
Yeah, it was. Riverdale had a period of growth. By the way, the trade name is Aquamesh.
Mhm.
So we came up with that name early on. We wanted to brand the product. So a lot of people call us the Aquamesh Company, but they don't know the name of the company is Riverdale Mills.
And where is it located?
It's in Northbridge, Mass.
Okay.
Yeah, which is south of Worcester and north of Providence, kind of
In between
right in between. Yep. And we started there because there was a rundown, dilapidated former mill building, and we needed cheap space to start the business. But back to the competition, for a long time, we supplied 80 to 90% of the wire. We had one competitor and was located in Houston, Texas, but he had trouble competing because of the shipping cost. And then around the early, 2000, 2001, we had a competitor come in from Italy, and
Right.
they made, it's known in the industry as the Italian wire,
Right.
and they had very good quality material, good product, priced a little less than ours, but and then a few years later, the Chinese wire came in, and of course they copied the color, the shade of the color,
Yeah.
and so to the fishermen, it looked like the same product.
Right.
But and it took 2 or 3 or 4 years. By the way, it was 35 to 45% less money. But
Which is hard to fathom.
Yeah.
Like, hard to swallow.
Yeah.
Well,
When you're a lobsterman, if you don't realize that it's an inferior product.
I could talk for an hour about foreign competition in China, but I'll just say this: there were. My wife tells me I should be a politician, so but there were millions and millions of manufacturing jobs lost in this country due to competition from China, and it was really. I always believed in free trade, but it was not fair trade. I mean, these companies were supported by the Chinese government
with you didn't have this. They didn't have the same restrictions as far as pollution, or on a million different levels, like the ensuring the workers.
Right.
Like it's not fair competition.
It isn't.
So it's like it's equal. Open trading is not the same as fair trading.
Yeah.
Right. That's the point.
Right.
Yeah.
So the problem is that when a manufacturing job goes, then there's 6 or 7 other jobs that go along with it. So it's the trickle down effect. And I remember hearing about different politicians talk about we got to rebuild the middle class. We got to rebuild the middle class. Well, there was a middle class in America, and it was people working at factories making products, and all the companies supporting those companies. But that went out. That went out the window, and now we have this system in America where a lot of those middle class jobs are gone, and we have wealthy up here and people trying to get by here. And the way to rebuild the middle class is to bring back manufacturing, and it's starting to be talked about now.
Yeah.
I see that Pat put the website up. So besides the net, I mean the lobster trap and everything else, and we heard from the Spanx that you can do all those other items like the rocking chair. What else could you talk about? Some of the products that you kind of have. Oh, the Riverdale.
At Riverdale, yeah. Well, I mean, think of the wire mesh. It has 101 uses. I mean, there was a guy in New Hampshire in the 80s that built he called it the frost-free bird cage, and it was a little bird feeder, and it was made out of the coated wire. And
wow.
Yeah. So that's a small item.
I see they make frames out of it and then put the suet inside.
Yeah,
and then the birds just pick
and
around.
those are made in China now. The whole thing is made and packaged in China, and they sell for less than we could make them for here. But let me get back to one comment you made, because it about the fishermen. Um, you know, uh, we Raytheon and Furuno and these companies developed the technology to find the fish, right?
Mhm.
And uh, and then the draggers are to go out and drag out all the fish. Well, what did they do? They wiped out the source, and I'm not.
Well, this was back in the. I'm talking about early days. The ground fishermen today are a lot.
Yeah.
They've been made aware of what was going on in the late '80s and early '90s, and they, I think that they would be the first to tell you that they recognized that was not sustainable.
Right. But I just wanted, back to Jim's comment, there's a lot that could be done with the wire. And so one of the things I was working on before I left the company was a fish trap. And I was working with Memorial University up in Newfoundland, because the cod industry up there got wiped out. It pretty much shut down the country. And so we had developed a fish trap made out of aqua mesh, but that could be placed on the bottom and hauled up like a lobster trap, and a sustainable, type of fishery. So there's a lot of other uses for this coated wire. We were working on um, you mentioned the wire in the concrete. Well, what happens is eventually they salt the roads. The salt goes into the concrete. It corrodes the metal. It corrodes the wire. And then that causes the concrete to crack. So we were working with another university on developing a coated wire for a bridge deck, so it wouldn't rust.
So it never got in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But unlike the lobster industry, something like that takes a lot of time, because you have, you've got people that want to study it, and then you've got engineers that are skeptical and they don't want to specify it. And,
Yeah.
So,
right, because it's easier to just go on with what they've been doing for a million years.
Exactly.
And just protect their job.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's always about covering their ass.
You had said earlier off camera that there are some wood traps used up in.
We had a guy, Danny Dunbar,
Yeah.
a couple of years ago, brought down a load of wood traps, and he was like, I'm gonna, crush them. They're using the wooden traps up north, and I'm gonna make everybody look silly. It didn't last long.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So down East Maine, I think the progression kind of went up the coast. We were in Massachusetts. We did have some customers in Maine adopt the wire quicker, but the further up you went, the longer it took. So in down East Maine, I remember, I don't know how long ago it was, but say 15 or 20 years ago, they still wouldn't use the wire. They wanted to use wood, but eventually they switched, and now I'm told some of the traps they use up there are around $200 a trap.
The innovations. Well, they're $200. It just seems like it's just crazy amount of money. Yeah. But like there's been a lot of different innovations. So there's on the bottom of the traps they put these things called runners. And they're like, they're like laid. I don't know what you would call it. Like they used to be a piece of wood, and the wood, and they'd kind of bolt them in. Now they're like, they're made out of like metal coated with rubber and then bolted in with stainless bolts with stainless thing. I mean, it's the traps are like built like unbelievable. Like the everything in them is built like bulletproof.
Right. Well, one of the first innovators in the wire trap industry was a company called Friendship Trap. They were founded by a guy by the name of Pike Bartlett in 1977, and he was instrumental in making a lot of innovations to the wire trap. But one of the ones that he did later on was he poured a concrete right into the bottom of the trap and essentially made a concrete runner.
Yeah, because it serves a couple purposes. One, to protect the bottom of that wire, because the coating will, if it's on rocky bottom or in a storm, it gets sandblasted or it gets roughed up. Those runners, they call them runners on the bottom of the trap, protect the bottom of the wire of the trap, especially on an expensive trap. And weighted cement ones, if they go, they want them to land perfectly square on the bottom, so they want them weighted on the bottom. So there's a bunch of reasons for it, but there's I've seen a lot of different. Some guys use bricks in the bottom of them. Now I see more and more of these different styles of runners on the bottom of the
Back to your question, Jim, there are still some places that use wood traps. Prince Edward Island.
You said their season was shorter, and
the season is shorter, 8 to 10 weeks, and they have the wood available. And the traps, they don't fish many traps either. A lot of them might only have a couple hundred traps. And also in Newfoundland, I made several trips to Newfoundland over the years to try and get the wire trap adopted up there, but they just
set in their ways.
Yeah, set in their ways. Yeah,
set in their ways. Trust me when I tell you, set.
Yeah, don't call us; we'll call you. I guess.
A lot of times when the change happens is like because like say you couldn't, they shut down the herring and they had to use something else, and then they swore. I mean, I have guys like would swear a certain kind of bait like does not fish. It doesn't fish. I can't catch anything with that thing. And they're forced to use some other type of fish, and then they use like the redfish heads. The redfish heads have more of a bony structure to them, as opposed to herring is like kind of very mushy,
flaky
and mushy, and will just evaporate in the trap after a couple of days. The redfish heads might last a week, and so then they use it because it also costs more. It costs more money than the herring, and then they use it, and they could see. Okay, it may cost like 20% more for the redfish heads, but it's going to last 2 to 3 times longer in the trap. They didn't want to come out of pocket for that 20% extra money, but then in use, then begrudgingly will start to use something else. Begrudgingly, you know what I mean? Even though they know that it's the right thing to do, begrudgingly, So, yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. But so you joined Coatings Engineer Corporation, CEC. And what did you do there? And why did you leave Riverdale Mills?
Well, that was my dad's first company. He invented a lot of his first company was Coatings Engineering, and he came up with processes for applying a plastic coating to metal. And so think of battery cable jumper handles or tools that have plastic on them now. We see them every day. But back in the late 50s, early 60s, coating plastics were new, and coating technology was new. Now plastics is all over the place, including in the ocean, and it's everywhere, and we can't live without it. But so I worked at Sea Coatings in the summer, and as a kid, and then I joined there full time in 1978, and 2 months after my dad had sold the company, and 2 months after I went to work there, he left. And so I stayed there for 2 years, and my title was Marine Products Manager, but my job was to sell this coated wire to the lobstermen, and also we sold wire to the blue crab trap fishery in the Chesapeake Bay, North South Carolina, down into Florida and Louisiana, and then we sold coated wire in Baja California for lobster traps in Mexico.
Oh wow!
So
they use it in the shrimp fishery at all?
They used to use shrimp traps in Maine, but that fishery has been shut down. But at one time we we made a little smaller mesh. It was a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch mesh, so not as easy to handle or get your hands
Oh,
through.
right.
But yeah, but that fishery is gone. Yeah. And then, did you have another question, or you want me to?
Well, yeah, no. Then you just go through the progression.
Yeah. So it was kind of when my dad left, he had sold the business 16 years earlier, and he had told people he sold it to he was going to go back into business as a competitor, just focusing on this lobster trap industry, and they really didn't care because it was just new and it was a new idea. They used to uh, tell him it would never work. You got that resistance for change in companies too, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, a lot
With
of companies get
boards,
fixed in their
yeah,
ways.
yeah.
And
That's
don't
what.
wanna
Okay,
change.
I'm gonna tell you something.
Yeah.
So, as the manager of Good Morning Gloucester,
Yeah,
I like you when you have a single vision, like when you can be the person.
Yeah.
You want to be the person.
Yeah.
Because you have your vision.
Yeah.
And you can take suggestions.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if I had to make compromises on the way I wanted it to be,
Yeah.
it would drive me up a wall.
Yeah.
And I don't have to make compromises because if someone doesn't like it, they can get the fuck out. So, and people have heard that in this office, haven't they?
yeah,
Yeah.
Almost
And
every week.
I want everybody to have a good time. I encourage everybody to be creative and things like that. But it's got to be my way.
My way or the highway. Yeah.
It's got to be my way. And I think I think I know what I'm doing. I think I've driven this ship in a good direction. And I've, in certain parts of my life, I've had to be, take the back road and not be the creative person. And it's tough not to, for me, it's tough to not have that say, so it's nice that when, with your father and everything like that, to get outside of that bureaucracy and to be able to drive what to be true is a nice thing.
Well, there's a lot of computer companies. Think here in Massachusetts. Think Digital Equipment. Think Wang Labs. Right. Think Data General. No one hears their names anymore, but they led the computer industry.
Right.
The refusal to develop a PC. Where are they today? They're gone.
Right.
So
right. Yeah.
You get resistance to change in companies, and
I think boards are the worst thing possible.
Yeah.
I think you're better off with like a king than boards.
Because
boards. I've been on boards. I've served on boards, and boards get bogged down in minutia instead of getting to driving to where you need to be immediately. They get bogged down in the what ifs.
Yeah.
Put the what ifs aside and drive forward. You'll figure it out.
Sure.
If you have a good vision, you believe in your idea,
you're
gonna figure it out.
Right.
Like you don't have, because there's always gonna be obstacles.
Yeah.
There's always gonna be naysayers, and if you're afraid of making a mistake and you never put your one foot in front of the other, you're never gonna get progress.
Yeah.
Because you're afraid of failure.
Sure.
And sometimes failure is beneficial.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Sometimes you really grow and learn from failure.
Sure.
Especially when you're young and you can overcome those things.
Sure.
As we get older, it's more and more difficult.
Right.
But when you're young, you have all everything. The opportunities are endless.
You mentioned the word king, but I would give you another idea, and that would be you need a benevolent dictator.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because if you want to grow a business, then you need to build a team. And if you're going to build a team, then
I think everybody.
Then you have to listen to people.
No, and Pat, do I listen to people?
You do.
Okay,
yeah.
Good.
And do I encourage people?
Yes.
Am I not benevolent?
However, you are focused on your end game.
On my vision.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's for the benefit of everybody.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's not just for me. It's for
we
the
respect that.
and I have I want to see small businesses around me to flourish. I want, you know what I mean? And if anybody has paid attention to this program for the past 13 years, they have seen that we are here to help and to be positive and have fun. And
Yeah.
we make fun and we joke, but okay, I'm getting off track. I'm
You're
sorry.
doing it to help people. I get that,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's right.
Yeah, but anyway, but to
All
the
right.
point, you're right though. Like, as far as
Now you set him off, so thanks for that.
Oh.
Okay, I'd had to do something to set them off, right?
No, but I'm lucky that I have people that share the vision. I mean, it's not just I don't do all the work. You know what I mean? A lot of people do the work, and everybody gets to enjoy the positive energy that comes from it.
Sure.
Therefore, the Merry Castaways.
Very castaways.
I think we should subtitle this particular podcast. I have one word for you: plastics.
Oh, what was the movie?
The Graduate.
The Graduate. Yeah, right.
That's right. Yeah.
When we're talking, I was thinking, we should.
Oh my
Totally.
God! How many times have you watched that movie?
Yeah,
Oh,
half a dozen times.
Because that was that was like
That
right
hit a
around
great
the same time of
Yes,
everything
Yeah.
going up.
Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah, who was the woman?
Anne Margaret.
Anne Margaret.
Wasn't it Anne? She was the mother. Anne Margaret was the mother.
Yeah,
Who was the daughter? I can't remember the daughter.
Oh boy.
That was oh my
great
God!
movie.
What a
Yeah.
scene! I wish we could pull it up and insert it right here. We might be able to. Pat, if you go on the background and go to YouTube and
I
see,
have some memes here, but
Find that clip. That is a
I
famous
might be
clip.
able to find it. All right, I'll try
I
to
got
find
it
it.
right here. But
No, I'm gonna try to find the YouTube and play it. Hold on one second. I just gotta
I
go.
got it right here.
Robin
Yeah,
and
but
Ned
you not,
Spanks.
are you gonna be able to insert it?
Thank
I
you.
don't know.
Is it a meme or the video?
YouTube video.
Okay. Do you know how to share the screen?
Not
The plus. See down on the bottom, Pat.
Okay, we're learning.
See the plus. See where it says add source. Go to add source.
Mhm.
Then you're going to share a Chrome window. Are you in Chrome? What are you using for a browser?
It's Mozilla.
I don't know. All right, you can give it a shot. Share. You're going to want to share a window.
Do you have some of your family members that are following your steps, and it's going right down the line here?
No, actually, I left the Riverdale in 2008, and I'm still an investor in the company, but I don't work there. I don't have anything to do with it. I was a consultant for 3 years. I worked for a UK based conglomerate that was over $1 billion in sales, and they owned a company over here. And then I bought a fence manufacturing and distribution company located in Stoughton, Mass, on the South Shore, and ran that for 8 years, and sold that in 2019. So
Now he's living life.
yeah.
Now he's living the dream.
No, I'm just getting started. I'm just getting going, and I'm. You got to change. You see,
Yeah.
I have a thing I call the rule of 30, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's hear this.
And someone can only stay in one job or one industry or one thing for 30 years, plus or minus 5 years. I think I told this to your brother.
You told it to me
told
too.
you
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And then after that, you get bored. You want to do something.
Yeah,
creative.
That's what the blog for me is. My sanctuary,
Yeah.
my creative outlet. Yeah,
Creative outlet. Yeah.
yeah. All right, Pat. I'm taking the reins here.
Yeah, please, because I'm not seeing the.
I was a teacher. We were teachers and stuff, and I did it for 30, 35, 36 years.
Yeah.
That's it.
It was
So,
time.
Right, it was time.
Yeah, and if you look around, that's longer than most people
Yes,
stay.
and it was in one
Yeah.
place too.
Yeah.
So
You're finding it. Look
Here,
at that.
hold on
Okay,
one
so-
second.
Oh,
he's looking for it. I
No,
think
I
he
got
found
it.
it.
he's got it.
I got it. Hold on a second. Here.
You got to find the scene with the father. He was speaking to the father-in-law.
It should be right here, but we'll see.
Okay.
Let me just try here.
Anne Bancroft, that's the name I was trying to think
Anne
of.
Bancroft.
She was Mrs. Robinson.
I had that wrong. I said Anne Margaret.
Source. Storage local video.
This is going to be good.
Oh wait, I think it's share screen. Oh, share screen. Right here. Share. All right, here we go.
Ooh, let me take that out.
Right here.
Oh, there he is. You can't hear it.
Oh, Joey, I'm gonna play it. The volume is not loud. Oh, there's it. There's the scene right there. The audio was not very loud, but this is a class. Look how young
Look how young this
Yeah.
Dustin Hoffman is right there. I gotta take this off. I'm sorry, just bear with me. Oh, I'm on the wrong screen. Here we go. Share, stop sharing. There and we're back. The I wonder what year. What year do you think that was? It had to be early 70s.
No, 60s.
Yeah, that was
It
The
was
Graduate, right?
60.
So that
Graduate,
was
68 is
I was
my
going to
guess.
say 68, 69.
Oh, so I was 1 year old when that was born, and then what year did your father start that company?
Well, he started see
1967.
67. Okay.
Oh, the year I
Yeah.
was born. Okay.
Yeah, where you were born. Yeah. He started coatings in 1958, 59. And then Riverdale and then he sold it in 62. He sold it to a bigger company, and but he remained with the company he sold for 16 years and ran that company. And then he had this idea for the trap, and they didn't really want to get behind it or implement it. And so, and yeah, so Riverdale Mills was founded in 1980.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
my dad was 50. I was 23, and my brother Jim was 22, and other family members, helped out as well. The first year we had 5 employees, three knots, and my mother did bookkeeping for a few years when we had no money, and my wife Jane is an environmental engineer, and she did a lot of the environmental
wow.
work over the years. And
Mhm.
my brother Jeff was in he lives in northwestern Maine now, but he was in sales on and off for several years, and he did a lot of the initial uh, trips to Canada.
Mm.
And
So when you in the beginning, were you selling? You weren't. Did you guys ever sell traps, built traps, or was
No.
it sheets of
well, originally it was rolls.
rolls?
So the coating process, we have machinery that it's automatic machinery that welds the wire into a grid, and then we roll it up. So think of a roll of carpet, 400, 600 feet long, big massive roll, 1,000, 1,500 pounds each. You have to be moved with a fork truck. Took it to another part of the plant where we unrolled it, hot dip, galvanized it. The secret sauce of the coating was what's called galvanized after welded. So we welded the plain metal, and then we dipped the wire in zinc afterwards, and then roll it back up. And then another part of the plant where we unrolled it and applied the plastic coating. Now you might say, why did we need the plastic coating? Well, because you've seen anchors and other chains and things around the marine environment that are zinc coated, but the zinc coating wasn't thick enough to last. Plus, the zinc abraded off. We did try selling traps without coating. In fact, there was a company in Maine. I didn't mention this earlier that they built traps out of it was an aluminum wire mesh, aluminized, not aluminum. It was metal coated with aluminum, and they were in business for 4 or 5 years. A company called Marcrafts. Some of the real old timers might remember that name. And they started to have some success, but the wire didn't last long enough. And then the company that was making the wire stopped making it, and they went to another process, and then it is dissolved in salt water in 9 months.
Yeah.
So
I can imagine when I can imagine a bear trap when it starts. So if you're being frugal and a metal that's not coated trap
Yeah.
starts to disintegrate, those are like a million little razor blades, like
Yeah.
sticking out.
yeah,
No, very very
right.
dangerous.
Mhm.
Yeah, like and no chance for oilskins are
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of when you grab a trap, more times than not you kind of grab it, you pull it, and you use your you
cord.
walk in your arms and you move the trap around, and it's rubbing up against your oilskins and your pant,
Mhm.
whatever, and you don't want anything sharp there because it's just gonna,
No.
because the oilskins for
Very
for
little.
mates are like $140 now. It's not
We tried making the wire without any zinc coating, right? So we just put the plastic coating over the bare metal, but that didn't work because the coating is bonded to the metal, but eventually the water would rust the metal, and then the rust would start, and then the bond would break. And we tried that early on, and those traps only lasted a year or two.
Wow.
So there was a lot of trial and error
Yeah.
with this process that went on, including I drive around Gloucester now, and and I see all the different color traps.
Yeah.
And at one time, when we started in business, we had one competitor that did green coating and one that did black. So we decided that we had to figure out a way to do both, and we did. But back in the late 80s or early 90s, we kept hearing from fishermen that they wanted different colors. So
For several reasons,
Yeah,
right? Because
several reasons,
because they when they're out on the water,
Yeah.
they can see if their trap is a different color, they can see if someone else is hauling it, or for theft reasons, for
identification.
identification.
Yeah.
Some of them have in their head that the lobster, like the different color. They're very. A lot of lobstermen have firm beliefs. You can get 10 different lobstermen in this office and ask them a question about a certain thing and get 10 different answers.
Well,
and they'll die on the hill of
Yeah.
their particular answer.
The stories that we heard was that the different colors caught more.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there wasn't any scientific
Yeah.
basis to that.
Yeah. No, I know. So I remember, let's see, when I graduated college, like 91, 92, 93, I was buying lobsters in Beverly, and the Borelli brothers
Oh
were
yeah.
buying lobsters from them. And they only used haddock and flounder racks. They did not use herring. Everybody else used herring.
Yeah.
And these guys caught as many lobsters as anyone else.
Yeah.
And they were Highlanders, right? And I would explain to my lobstermen, like, it doesn't matter what you put, as long as you have bait in the traps, these lobsters don't care. But certain guys had just had it in their head that they had to have herring. If they didn't have herring, it was going to be the end of the fucking world. It was just like, oh my God, like these guys in Beverly are catching, like, and a lot of it was times like a guy that would only come in with 100 pounds. And these Beverly guys are coming in with like 600 pounds. And I'm just like, I just want to bang my head into a wall trying to, and you can't change their minds until they get forced to use something else, and then they see it works. It's just driving me
Well, it was funny because we used to go town to town, and some towns would switch to all wire traps, and you go to the next town, and they'd still be using wood.
Right, yeah, because one guy, no, it's, and it's funny. I always thought like, here's an analogy. When I was in college, right, I had this little side hustle that I would make like inappropriate T-shirts. Like it was like, we went to Bentley College, and it was the Bentley Falcon. So I drew this falcon, like with his claw up, his talon up on a keg, and this is "Tap a Falcon tonight." Just a silly slogan, but it had to do with booze and college kids. And so I go door to door in the dorms with my bag of big satchel of T-shirts for sale. And like the doors open, most college kids have their doors open and they're all kind of doing their thing. And I'd go in, and all I needed to do was identify who the alpha in the room was, and if I could do it all over again, I would have met with that alpha ahead of time and gave him a T-shirt for free. Right, because then everyone would have had. Because you go to the room, and if the person is like, "Oh, that's cool, I got to have one," every person in the room had to have one, buy one. If the person said, "Oh, that's lame," no one was going to take money out of their pocket.
Yep.
You know.
Well, I will add to that we never gave away the wire. And a lot of fishermen would say, "Well, give me some and I'll try it. Give me some and I'll try it."
Yeah.
But we felt that if we gave them the wire, then they'd figure out a way for it not to work. So we wanted people to buy it, so they were invested in making it work.
That's a good idea.
You can go either way.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
No, that's interesting take on it.
I didn't know you were a T-shirt.
What's that?
I didn't know you were a T-shirt guru here.
There's certain things in my life I've done since I was a kid. I've been on from grade school through college and into my adult life. I've written for every newspaper: grade school, middle school, high school, college.
Oh.
And I consider this like a newspaper. Yeah, I wrote for everything.
You learn something new.
You learn something new.
Also, I had a fascination with T-shirt sales and stuff like that, swag, sales like that, like just fun because it allows you to be creative, artistically a little bit, and then it's like a little hustle, a little side hustle. So it's fun.
Yeah.
Right. But
wow.
Yeah. So
there you go, folks. You learned something.
Oh, we're gonna go. Oh, geez, I haven't even looked at the second page of notes here. We're gonna get to the second page of notes.
Wow.
Well, I don't know how much.
I think we covered a lot of it.
Yeah,
well, we did.
Talk about the future a little.
Yeah, let's do that.
What's happening now, and so, I mean, you see it. I'll pose a question to you. What do you think about climate change, and how is it affecting the industry? Let me ask you. What are fishermen telling you? What are you seeing?
As in everything in the world that we live in now, there's very polarized, like by political affiliation. Some hardcore conservative lobstermen would tell you that it doesn't exist, and then there's the other side, people that recognize the water levels are rising, and there's warmer bodies of water. Like there's a tremendous amount of lobsters being caught in the Gulf of Maine,
right?
That were not being caught before, and a lot of people will tell you that it's because of a rise in the water temperature in the Gulf of Maine. So is that what you were going to ask?
Yeah. What do you think? Or what are fishermen telling you? I mean, we've definitely seen the.
There's these young guys that are buying these $1 million boats right now, and I didn't grow up with this. I grew up with guys buying $50,000 boats, working their way up, and these guys are going out and buying $1 million boats and getting loans for them, and they're doing very well, and they're fishing this bottom, and they're buying these. Like when I was growing up, these guys bought these Novi boats, these big, fat, slow Novi boats that were fuel efficient. They had big decks, and they would fish, in a much closer area to our port. Now these younger guys are putting these very high-powered, fast boats that can get out to this bottom a lot quicker. And fish a lot more gear.
Yeah.
So I don't personally know if it's that these guys can haul that much more gear and that's why they're catching that much more lobster, or if it's because of this water temperature thing.
Sure.
I don't know. You know what I mean? I would be.
Well, what I've seen is there used to be a big fishery in Long Island and Connecticut, in Long Island Sound and Rhode Island.
There's none.
There's none, right?
Right.
And
a lot of people blame that on pesticides.
They blame it. Well, it's a discussion for another day. Right.
No, it is. I'm not saying it's right or wrong.
There was a die-off.
There was that. They said that the nervous system of the lobster was similar to, like they're spraying for, what was it, the West Nile virus, and stuff like that. And they said that really. But I don't know if that's right or wrong.
People were putting fertilizer on their lawn, and it was leaching out into the water. Right. And there was a die-off, and that's been well documented, but it hasn't really come back.
Right.
And then Rhode Island, there was an oil spill, and that hurt the fishery there. That was 2000. late 90s. I can't remember when. But I don't know, the Massachusetts lobstermen, they've done well the last few years.
They've done very well.
They've done very well.
I mean, they're all driving brand new Denali's.
Okay. All right. But
not all. I'm only listen. They've done very well. They deserve everything they get. They're hardworking guys.
Right.
This is not a shot. This
Right.
is just like I see. Most of my guys got brand new pickup trucks.
But what happened in 2012? There was the lobsters came really, really early, and that could have been attributed to a quick warming of the ocean, and they came early, and then the prices dropped. Do you remember that? Was that?
My memory is terrible. I mean, I remember there were years with fluctuations in prices and stuff like that. A lot has to do, in my mind, with that can have it, but a lot of it, I think a lot has to do with the big pounds. And when there are a lot, even some, I don't know if some certain guys play dumb, but like when there are a lot of soft shell lobsters, they can't go in the air. They will not survive.
Right.
They have to be absorbed in a much smaller geographic location because they have to be trucked wherever they're going to go. They have to get there, or they have to be shucked. And the canner, the canning place, the places that do lobster meat, will only pay X amount of dollars for that lobster to produce that lobster meat, and they need to make a profit and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So the lobster dealers are at the mercy of what the
Fishermen bring in.
No, they're at the mercy of what in the soft shell lobster season of what the why can't I think of the name of the not canneries? It's the places
The flash
that do
freezing.
the places that chuck meat. I don't know why I'm having a brain fart right now. But anyway, we're at the processors.
The processors. Thank you.
Okay, sorry. They're at the mercy of what they will pay for. Because if 80% of the lobsters are soft lobsters that can't go in the air, that's we're at the mercy of what they will pay us.
Sure.
Because you can't hold them. If 7,000 pounds or some places are handling 10,000, 12,000 pounds of lobsters a day, you can only hold so many in your tanks. They got to come in and they got to go out.
Yeah.
So.
But up in Canada, you probably know this. They don't allow fishing during the molting season, right? So that's off limits. And I always thought that was a good idea because I've caught my share of soft shell lobsters. I've even caught lobsters that have just molted in the trap. They look like Jello. And but it's a fascinating industry. There's a lot of science. There's a lot of unknowns that we don't know. We're learning more all the time. The state used to run a lobster hatchery down in Martha's Vineyard. I don't know if they still do that, but they did a lot of research.
Yeah, these guys are hardworking guys, man. I'll tell you, like these lobstermen and fishermen. I mean, these are really the salt of the earth. They're what makes this city tick.
Yeah.
And some great friends, Mark Ring, Peter Mondello. These guys I consider as much of a guy that goes lobstering for me as a friend.
Sure.
And we've been. It's like a family down here. The guys that are with us, been with us through the years and stuff like that. Mike Tupper. It really is like a family. Like we've been through marriages, divorces, children. I see Mike Tupper's son, who's got his boat right out here. When Mike was starting fish for us, he was just this little kid running around.
Yep.
And now he's this adult, strong lobsterman. Doing good things. But buying. Went from a little boat to a bigger boat, and doing very well for himself. And it's great to see. It's just. I think it's a strong fishery. I think what we talked about earlier, that conservation that the lobstermen that have taken on themselves has done really good things.
Well, we used to say that really what the lobstermen are doing is we call it aquaculture in the wild because we're putting down millions of pounds of bait. We're feeding the lobsters.
And they have escape vents.
They have
People may
escape
not know
vents.
what an escape vent is.
Right.
Like if you put a camera on a lobster trap, on an active lobster trap,
Yep.
like the trap lands with the bait in it, and after a little bit, you see juvenile lobsters going in, eating the bait, and actually every trap now is required to have an
By
escape
law,
vent
yeah.
by law,
Sure.
and the escape vent is the size that an illegal short lobster can get out.
Mhm.
So it really is like aquaculture, like you're
Right.
and now in the last couple of years, is talking to a lot of my lobstermen, they say the amount of lobsters that they have to gauge
Yep.
and throw over is unbelievable, and it's all because the gauge size and that it's just all these lobsters are eating and going and eating
Right.
and going, and then as soon as the season opens up, kind of,
Yeah.
and then maybe those lobsters had a chance to grow that millimeter that they
Right.
needed to grow to be
Right.
legal.
Of course, there's another factor, and that is with the cod gone and the haddock gone, right?
Right.
The natural predators are gone.
That's
And, I wonder what might happen if the fish came back.
Well, there was a time with the stripers where we were nervous about the stripers. Like
Yep.
when the stripers really came back, they were just chowing on little baby
Yeah.
lobsters. There was I remember talking to a bunch of lobstermen that they said, especially in the soft shell season, they're throwing the lobsters around, and there's like a trail of stripers going right behind the boat. Every lobster, the soft shell lobster, was going overboard and just getting ingested by these huge
They weren't going down
lobsters.
fast enough.
They were not going down fast enough. Yeah, so it was scary because there was like these regulations on the lobsters, but not on the stripers so much.
Yeah.
That, those
Right.
big stripers around.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. All of it's so interesting.
Yeah.
And
Well, this transplanted New Yorker who's now living here and stuff, I'm watching what's going down here. I met some of these lobstermen. They really care what's going on. Not only, the community and what's going on with their stuff, but they care about the business and stuff. And to hear some of these stories, this is a great day. I'm learning so much here. I'm loving it. I'm really feeling like I'm a part now. I feel like I could talk about it now and everything.
you got a little
It's great.
better color in your face too than yesterday. What'd you have for breakfast?
I didn't have any breakfast.
No breakfast. No, he
No.
looks better today.
It's the pills.
This is a good day for Jimmy.
It's the pills.
Yeah, Jimmy had a stroke a couple months ago.
Really?
Just coming out of
I
it.
never would have known.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
You look great.
Yeah. He's,
Why, thank you.
well, he doesn't. He had a neck brace on. He was having headaches. Any headaches today?
No.
That's good.
No.
You're coming along, kid.
Good.
The doctor
asked
said
her
that he
for
was going to
sitting.
make a full recovery, but he was in touch and go there for a while.
Wow.
So we're glad to have him around.
They were going to put me in the
Very apropos. Very apropos. Where
Yeah.
did you get this?
Yeah.
Is that from Enza?
Yes, it is.
I didn't get one of those.
You
I
didn't
have to
ask.
get on the website. I got to get on the website. I like that a lot. Do you ever notice like on lobster paraphernalia and stuff? Like, does it drive you crazy if they have two crushers or two pinchers? And
It does, yeah. They're not doing it right.
It drives me up a wall. It drives me absolutely. It's like they get total posers if they whoever created this is obviously not doesn't know. What
Check this out. I've been wearing this. Did they do that right?
Did you get it right?
They got
There
it
you go.
right.
You
Okay,
got
the
the
main
pincher and the
lobstermen's
crusher.
association. I wore this just for the
There
occasion.
you go.
Yeah.
Jimmy did. I missed the memo apparently, but yeah. No, how are we? I think we're just over an hour, so I think we should wrap it up right here. Andy, thank you so much for
Okay.
coming in.
Pleasure.
Did you have fun?
I had a great time. It was
I
fun.
think I'm going to share this with Beth Cassoni from the Mass Lobsterman Association.
Great.
And maybe she'll put it out there because I bet you a lot of lobstermen would love to hear about this. Pat, thank you for manning the comment section back there.
And we want to officially,
Pat,
Oh, thank you very
we
much.
want to officially give you a Good Morning Gloucester sticker.
don't waste that now. It's going to
No,
go
it's
someplace.
going to go right on my window.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah.
Send a
No-
picture when you put it on the window.
I
Send a
sure.
picture. We can put that on the
Yeah.
blog.
Okay.
All right. Joey Shimataro here. Angela Dagny. Love listening to you guys. Well, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And
And there's Pat. See you, Pat.
Pat Dalpiaz, Jimmy Dalpiaz, Andy Knott. And I'm your host, Joey Shimataro. I hope everybody has a great day.
Bye,
We're going
guys.
to be back at 2 2:00 or 2:30?
2:30.
2:30 with AC from Beauport, the number one bartender on the planet, according to a lot of people. Chris McCarthy and Chris Donato, the superintendent from Bass Rocks, at 2:30. So I hope you'll join us then. We're going to sign out with
Plastics.
No,
one word. Give me the line. Give me the line.
well, it's got to be computer science today, right?
Right, but give me what was the well, give me the delivery of the father-in-law.
Plastics.
There you go.
Yes, I'm gonna say.
Little town with big news. 411, come get the scoop. Wake up with Joe and the rest of his crew. It's good morning, Gloucester, to you. Oh, it's good morning, Gloucester, to